Welcome. This is Grandmaster Dr. Thor Templar, and this is a very interesting lecture I'm going to give today, and that's empowerment. How it works, what it's about. And this is an area that everyone's really confused about, is that what is empowerment? What oftentimes these are classified as abilities. In vulgar terms, or even kind of strong terms, superpowers. Of course, everybody in occultism wants to have high-level empowerments. You want to be able to manifest pretty much whatever you want. You want control in situations. I mean, this is the reason why you get into basic practical occultism. And really, that's what occultism is all about. You know, we talk about this and, what can I manifest? But, basically, it's all about manifesting. The higher levels of occultism, after you're able to control the physical reality of your life, goes into spiritual aspects, but it's not a spiritual path unto itself. Now, having the correct way of thinking and perceiving the world is critical to empowerment, because you can't see the world in the old way. You can't live in a Hollywood world. All of these you need to deal with on a particular new and exciting level. And you have to change your basic perceptions of everything to gain empowerment. But it's still all about manifesting. And the spiritual goals of ascending off of this plane, becoming a higher state of consciousness, the level above human, is critically important for those who really want to escape the reincarnation plague and leave this hell realm reality. But these are basically understandings of things that very high level occultists are able to do, and it's very, very difficult, and most people will never even be that interested in it. Creating even a physical immortal body where you live for long periods of time, and then ultimately leaving this reality requires a level of dedication that is beyond pretty much everyone. So it's important that you understand the concepts of empowerment. Now, our systems will empower everybody. We've never had a failure of using our technologies with anyone. If they've applied themselves, if they've followed our core training, everyone has gained pretty well, and have went up to the levels that they can obtain based on their personal dedication as well. And, that's always a factor of what it takes to be empowered, what it takes to have ability, so to speak, and extreme abilities. There's a natural factor of it, meaning you're just good at these types of things, and that's what a lot of people are, particularly who seem to excel at occultism, and they excel at anything in occultism. No matter what tradition they do, they tend to do it well, even though everyone prefers certain traditions over others. If they use these magic machines, they're able to get results, etc. And that's because they have natural abilities and they're strong to begin with. The average person doesn't have these, and you have to develop them. And some things will work and some things won't. But if you apply yourself, you will grow in empowerment, and you will have levels of empowerment. And there's many, many different levels. And this is very misunderstood as well. And there's some things that you can just do easier than others as well. But there are core trainings you have to understand to develop all these things. And we go into this in our foundation series and our series in general. And it's just the reality is that you got to train yourself. And that's all part of it. And that requires, like everything else in life, a dedication and a little bit of investment. That's just the nature of the world as well. And doing such things makes it valuable to you, and you value it, treasure it, and make sure it happens. So free information is generally valueless to everyone. Just not how the world works. And if it's free, it's junk. So that's part of the commitment to the entire program, and we don't want to stress that or de-stress it make your investment doing. But we offer occult tools. They may come in book form, but these are occult tools that you use for the rest of your life. And for the rest of your life, you are mentored, assisted every step of the way for just the price of getting a book, which is quite a deal. So the idea is that, but you need to understand, well, you get these and you start to get empowered, but what does that mean? I think that's a good question. What does empowerment mean? And where does it start? Well, of course, like everything in life, it's dependent upon on your dedication and what kind of level of empowerment. If you want to be an Olympic athletes train 6 days a week, at least 8 hours a day, like a regular job. Anyone who's good at anything, generally, there are natural abilities in there, but they have to learn and train and keep developing themselves. Even so-called geniuses who are good at math and other things may be good at math, but they still had to be trained in those different levels of math and then how to use it and develop it. So nothing comes just by the fact that you want it. So you have to train, and it depends on your own personal natural abilities of how easily you learn it and how easily you are able to make it work for you. But one of the things is that people look at this Hollywood element of things. Well, if you're a powerful occultist, and there's a lot of problems with all this stuff, considering that most people are basing everything, and we're moving away from this, of having an altar producing energies that then affect something. Well, it's pretty hard to do that throughout the day if you come into a situation. What do? So, it's pretty hard to run home and unpack the ritual equipment and do rituals and then solve that problem that happened hours ago. So all of that is a very limited aspect of occultism, which we are moving away from, teaching people how to be active occultists all the time in any situation, and what tools that will assist you with that, particularly the power bags, which give you power all the time. We touched on this in a little bit with being connected to your altar and how to draw energy from it any place, any time, which is an old technique that very few people know of. But there are even stronger techniques and way to do that, and that's really what the revolution in occultism and what modern occultism is all about, is having these particular aspects and powers and abilities to access these power streams that you're connecting yourself to, so you can use them any place, anywhere. But what does all this mean in terms of the average person? You're going to get a book, you're going to study it, and what does that mean? Well, people who, it's kind of amusing that you get either, young people who think they can, and they may have a lot of past problems as well. I mean, you don't have to be 50 to have a lot of past problems. You can be 20 and had lots of past problems. But they actually think they're going to change a lifestyle, particularly as you get older in your 30s, 40s, 50s, etc., that you've had 40 years of problems, and you're going to get a book and you're going to study it for a few months and use it, and your whole life is going to change. Well, your life is going to change, but it's not going to change instantly. And all the old problems that are created by the bad way of functioning, anything from bad luck to curses on you to just acting goofy, which you shouldn't be, is not going to be erased because your life now has taken an energy change to the positive. Those old problems are still going to be there, and it's going to take time with the new thinking and the new abilities to change all the old problems that were created by you or because of the energy around you. So this will start to straighten itself out, and it can take months, or if you've done something that has caused serious complications in your life, it may take years to straighten that out, but you would never straighten it out without the assistance of the occult sciences in general. So you would always have that problem. It's only the occult sciences that will allow you to change those bad things into positive eventually, depending on what level that is. Now, I always like to make it crystal clear that your life starts changing immediately, and things will start getting better in little increments right from the minute of even contacting a guild. Before you even get your book, things change. And this is a constant thing we hear. Things start to happen. You start the process, the energy flows to you even before you get anything from us, or even just by contacting us, and your life starts to change for the better. This is a constant thing we hear. But you can't go from a problematic life where you have trouble making money, change that around instantly. Or your relationships don't work. Or you have some sort of physical or other problem, and expect that to just, it's gone. Well, I read the book. I finished it page to page. Every page I read, I've been studying for 10 days. And why my life hasn't changed completely? Well, first of all, your life has changed quite a bit. Now, these are subtle changes, which means the energy flow into you is completely different. Your whole field, your aura is starting to become this attraction for what's good and positive and what you need. But that's not going to manifest in the physical world for some time. But that's the process that it starts. But old problems are old problems, and they're going to take time to resolve. And you need to stop making the same errors or drawing in the same bad people before new problems stop manifesting. So those generally start right away. And the less new problems you create, the less old problems you have to deal with. Just makes sense. If you don't empower yourself, you're going to create more and more new problems to add to all your old bad problems. So basically, you stop creating problems, and then the past problems you start working on, and they resolve themselves over time, depending on what they all are. Your life becomes a point where you're only manifesting new positive things. But what people get very confused about is that, yes, their life starts to change, but they have all these old problems that are still nagging them. Well, that's just the reality of life. You can't eliminate them because because you've now empowered yourself through an occult process. The old is going to be there and has to be worked through, eliminated, and then built up. So you need to understand that as part of the process. You're not going to, people come to us all the time, been cursed for 20, 30 years, or even 10 years, or 5 years, or even a couple of years. The damage done by that is extreme. And the point is once the energy is removed, what stops happening is the creation of new problems. But the old problems caused by the curse or negativity or whatever may have happened in your life are still going to be there because they were manifested previously. And they're built upon because you're still producing negative energy. When you start producing the positive energy and these energies are removed, things change as I just explained. So you need to understand that that's just common sense and dealing with the reality of everything. What others want to tell you is how they can manifest everything instantly and your life changes. Well, it's not true. It just doesn't work like that. You will be manifesting all sorts of positive, good things as soon as you start on the path. Generally, these are a whole bunch of little things. I like to say, stone by stone, brick by brick, you build the pyramid. But ultimately, large, huge breakthroughs are not all that common to start with. But they do get greater and greater as you empower yourself, as you eliminate past problems, and each new empowerment you have leads to greater empowerments where you can achieve more and more. So ultimately, you want to get to a point in your life where you are not solving problems, and this is the key to occultism. You're not solving problems. You're manifesting positive additions to your life, not putting out fires that you created. Ultimately, that's the perfect state empowerment where you be. That's you're not worrying about getting a job. I got a good job. I just want a better job. So the whole idea is to reach higher levels while you're in a stable, great environment to begin with, because that's what produces success, and greater success each time. And that's very critical to understand. And you've got to understand that a lot of these things that have been tried to sold to people, which everybody wants to do, have absolutely no value in your life. Everything from teleportation to invisibility and all these things, which for years we offered a lot of fun material on that. There are books written on this that talk about it. It is fun, and they give you little techniques, etc. It's totally worthless in your life. I'm afraid that most of that stuff has no value whatsoever. These are the kind of things that attract people and sell books. But what would you even do with a lot of these skills if you had them? But these are extreme abilities which are possible to achieve in the bigger picture by somebody who's extremely dedicated and wants to put hours and hours every day into working on these things. But generally what has to be inputted into that and the lifestyle changes that have to be done are much more than any person really will want to do. And it's not a simple word like we all want to do. I want to buy a machine or a ring or this or that, and I'm going to get instant invisibility and instant powers. That's what everybody wants. That does not exist. Everything's a stepping stone. There are occult power products that will assist you and bring you up to higher levels. As you reach higher levels, these products bring you up to higher levels. It's a process because you learn how to access the energies within them. And these can turn into quite amazing and give you almost miracle-like results in the long run if you pay attention, because as the blockages are removed, the problem is the more successful a person gets, the less they say that they got that from their occult empowerment. And when you make a big straw, it was all you. What an ego. I've heard this so many times. It's all me. Yeah, I did it. I have tracked this. My bottom. It's not the case whatsoever. You would never got anywhere without the occult empowerments first. And those now build your life, and now you reject them like so many people do in life in general. What have you done for me lately, so to speak? And this kind of nonsense perpetrates de-empowerment, and ultimately when people fall off the occult empowerment and think they can do it themselves, I've seen them crash every single time. You give up the path. You stop doing what you need to do, empower what you're doing, and when you get successful, you tend to do that, and then you lose it all. So, it's very important to understand. So what happens in your development? Now, you have to look at every possible thing that happens to you and understand that to begin with. So, if you find a quarter on the street after you're doing success rituals or working with empowerments that you need money, that's a success. If you get out of an accident, even if you somehow fall down a flight of stairs and maybe you only break a finger, if you weren't empowered in occultism, maybe you would have broken your neck and died, or broken an arm, or broken a leg. You got to understand that your life is being changed all the time. There's no such thing as luck. You make your luck. You make your realities. And when you can get involved in the occult sciences, things that happen to you because of the spin of positive you put on it. And when you stop doing it, and I don't recommend it, but if you want to practice for a while and then stop doing it, watch how your life falls apart. It can be tested. We've done it. So you're a part of this. You're an integral part of it. You're activating it. You're making it happen. But you are using tools to do that and energies to do that. And if you stop using those, your life will go back to what it was before. That's the nature of all of it. So it's important to understand that. But what are these powers? What do you see at first? Well, as I said, there's all sorts of little things that happen. And you have to note that. You have to note if you drive by a bad accident, maybe you would have been in that accident. Well, that's very speculative, isn't it? Well, stop doing the magic, and then you can think about that from your coffin or your hospital bed. Gee, maybe the magic did help. So, that kind of nonsensical thinking is what your mind tells you to do to rationalize where you're at. So you got to look at that. You got to look at that. How is your life changing? Have you not been hurt? Have you not gotten sick? Have you not gotten in a car accident? It's not just the fact that everything is positive in the fact of adding to your life directly and so incrementally. It's a lot of things that may have not happened to you because you're protecting and doing occult practices that add up to make your life better. So it's a way of thinking. It's not the fact that you didn't get that $100,000 a year job. Maybe it's the fact that you just kept your regular good job and you weren't fired when everybody else was, or fired in general. So, it's a way of perceiving everything instead of expecting the more and more syndrome, the better and better, which in some cases is almost impossible for a person to achieve. If you're not qualified to get a big job and make a fortune, it isn't going to come to you through your job. So trying to manifest a better job when the industry you're in only pays $40,000 as a general rule, and nobody in that industry makes more than that, trying to empower yourself with a job to make $100,000 is a stupid manifestation, which is what we cover in What Can You Manifest. And it's very important you understand that and you get the foundations and principles so you make stuff work for you. That's very, very important to understand, which is why we offered that foundation book and why you have these foundations to understand and grow with. So you're gonna have to manifest from some other way, and you have to be open for that. You have to be aware of what's happening, see what the potential is going on there, and grab it when it comes to you. And usually it's going to come to you in a very subtle way. You'll be offered something may happen. We talk about this in the manifestation to some extent. I mean, if you need money and you're able to, and then you also need a car, and you're able to get a car at a several $1,000 discount, didn't you just make, let's say you get a $2,000 discount on a car that you never would normally get because you did a success ritual. Well, didn't you just make $2,000 extra? You're damn well you did. Now, if you're thinking properly, you understand that. If you're not, you're saying, well, magic didn't work. My check didn't have $2,000 bonus in it. Well, that's very stupid thinking, and that's not the way things work. Life is not very much of a straight line, and magic rarely manifests in a straight line. Things come from weird directions and weird places where they never would think it would happen. Because that's the only way they can. Straight line manifestation probably would happen anyway. You wouldn't have to use magic. So magic brings it from unexpected ways, which is the only way it can manifest in your life. And it isn't adding, it isn't more of something, as I just said. It could be less of something, or less problems happen, or you have less trouble. So manifestation is also the lack of negative manifestations in your life and the sustaining of the good that you have. Now, it's very important to understand that. So that's how magic starts to work first. It sustains the good things you have. It gives you a higher awareness. You should be thinking differently. So you will then observe the positive things to get involved with and the positive things in your life that you should build on, not just give me more. It's a process. So that's very, very important to understand. Your perspectives change. You start to know things. Often this is called in modern times intuition, because that's such a nice word. Everybody loves the word intuition. It's so clean, so scrubbed up with nice, beautiful soap. Unlike the debased, horrible phrase that now has been created by the advocates of positive occultism, which is psychic power. Psychic can mean anything. Usually it means a delusion. The psychic network. You call in and talk to some goofball, tells you your future or something. Yeah. They've made sure they've attacked all these things, even though a lot of these networks have some fairly talented people in it, believe it or not. Of course, I'm sure there's frauds, but there's a lot of good-meaning people who tend to do that. So, it's your intuition kicks in. You start to know things if you are properly aware instead of walking around with a dumb head full of garbage. So you become aware, you start to know things, you get feelings. This is happening. I don't like the way that feels. We've talked about this for years, and what's amazing is a lot of people who tend to discount occultism talk about, the vibes, man. The vibes in this place are bad. Where the vibes are good. I like the vibes here. And we have this all the time. Some people you instantly like. It's called charisma. Why? I mean, generally these people aren't particularly attractive or anything else. You just like them. They're kind of, I see this with movie stars. I kind of like that guy. And then some other people I see, God, I just don't like that guy. I just don't like him. So your energies are not mixing well. You get bad vibes from that. You go to a place, you walk down a dark street at night. I don't like the feeling here. It feels bad. So, if you're in a situation like that, and you say, well, maybe I shouldn't go down that street. Whether you're driving or walking, and I've done this. I've turned around. I've been walking down streets, and I shouldn't walk here. I went back to my car. I drive down that same street, and I see all sorts of hoodlums hanging around. Yeah, that would have been a bad idea to walk down there. So, these are the type of things that happen when you tune into and when your inner magical being is activated and your occult powers are starting to be activated. It's not just the fact that you're manifesting, as we have in our core psychic training book with the scary name, Psychic Celestial Command. It's about programming yourself first to be open to all these things and get your inner magical being kicked in. Everybody wants to move to the advanced stages of commanding other people and doing psychic touching, and these are all great and fun areas to get involved with. But the success of being able to do that or not is not the main point here. If you are able to activate these intuitions, your higher abilities, you're going to benefit dramatically from this when you get your head out of the muck that regular society wants to keep you in. So it's not directing abilities and making things happen in the first stages. It's stopping trouble, avoiding trouble, maintaining where you're at, and developing intuition. Very, very critical to understand. That's the first stage you get into. And people, well, man, that's interesting. I want to fly around. I want to be able to command people to do what I want. Well, it's childish in a lot of ways to think like that as well. First of all, these things can be done to lesser and greater extents by some individuals. And that may be your goal, to have some of these abilities. But the point is that's not how it works as a general rule, particularly initially. You have to develop those, and that takes a lot more practice and a lot of energy. First thing you want to do is stop you from making mistakes and causing more trouble. That in itself is worth a fortune. It is priceless. So you got to keep that in mind. It's not direct manifestation. It's indirect manifestation, feelings, activation of your intuition and your higher psychic abilities by not screwing up or being guided to do what appear to be normal things, but normal things that will reward you. So that's the first stage. And that's very important, and people need to do that. And that's what all these sigils and everything else are doing within your consciousness. So the fact that you can't knock down walls, fly, or have spider senses is not something that is surprising. Now, your next step, once you get past all those things, is you start manifesting more things directly and indirectly. As I said, a lot of things just will not come to you straight line. But that goes into, you then start creating energy fields around you. You connect to the streams of energy, which your inner magical being starts connecting you to, and you pull this energy in. You access all the energy that's in the sigils, which are basically the shortcut to doing all that, because it's very hard to connect to streams by yourself without sigils, because it's a difficult process. A very advanced process that very few people can do. So the sigil system is critical to that. So when you start surrounding yourself and you're moving out of just being intuitive and stopping problems because you have higher guidance, you have occult guidance that tells you what to do, you're now going to be manifesting more directly. And that is, you're going to having these fields created. As I said, you draw them in and you become, the best way to explain it is you become a magnet for that particular energy. So if you're seeking empowerment, prosperity, success, you have to have those fields around you. You're never going to have people that are successful, people that become rich and famous, and all have these fields around them. Some of these people have had these fields created for them. Don't underestimate the people out there who actually have and are working with occult sciences and other occultists to empower them. Don't think that this doesn't happen. But a lot of them have natural fields around them that attract that. Because nothing happens because you're smart. Nothing happens that because you've got the best product. It's a lot of manipulation and energies. Some of the stupidest people, including the richest man in the world, Billy Bob Gates, impresses me to be kind of a dumb guy. I'm not impressed by anything he's ever done and he achieved, and everything he's done has come off the worker. He's just lucky because he had those fields around him. He even has a fairly unattractive wife. I mean, this guy really hasn't achieved much. And how he thinks to help the world is to vaccinate people. I mean, this guy's one step above a retard. And the retarded society has rewarded him for being stupid. And of course, there's a lot of factors here, but the point is that obviously these people have these energies around them. And to stay in that same category, Steve Jobs was nothing but a big air of wind and never did anything. He didn't even have a college education. He dropped out, become a self-centered, egotistical, nasty, spiritual dude. I guess when he treated people like garbage, he justified it in a meditative breathing exercise. And basically achieved nothing. He used the skills that were achieved by Apple were done by his partner, Wozniak, not him. But we'll not get into those things. I could spend hours talking about that. And you may agree or not agree. The genius of Steve Jobs, who invented the M3 player? Yeah, right. But the problem here is that these people have these fields around. There's nothing special about them. And they tend to be less intelligent than the average person. I mean, both Gates and Jobs dropped out of college. So they weren't these guys with big, giant degrees. And they didn't spend the time getting education. They jumped into the job market or the business market. So, and they became successful because they have these fields around them. I mean, you have to recreate this. If you want whatever field that is, if you want to attract people, you need to have this field around you all the time. And some people have these naturally occurring, as I've just stated. In other areas, they don't. I mean, Steve Jobs could have used, Bill Gates could have used a lot of love energy around him because he didn't exactly meet the perfect mate. He met she was either a secretary or a manager in his own company. Well, that's pretty pathetic. In some ways, that's sexual harassment. Well, you either go out with me or we fire you. I mean, that's what the indirect emphasis when you're in a company and you're dating your employees. So he didn't have those energies, or he would attract somebody a little better than that. So the whole idea is that everyone has pluses and minuses, and you need to create this around you. So whatever you're looking for, you need to have that magnet energy for that. And that's what doing direct rituals combined with what I've just told you about, the intuition, which tells you what to do best to formulate those things as well. Because when you get into practice of traditional sorcery or even advanced sorcery, there's many things to try that you have to be intuitive of what works best for you, as well as being scientific to say this worked and this didn't. There are many different formulas of occult and power tools, which one works better for you than another. So that's how you start doing things, and it still may not come straight line. As I said, depending on your blockages, things that manifest in your life, even when you're directly manifesting for them, and generally have to materialize in strange and bizarre ways, even negative ways, because something that happens to you bad forces you generally to do something to counter that, or forces you in a position that initially appears to be horrible. Oh, why would this possibly happen? This is a total failure. Nothing's work. This occultism is bullshit. Well, your intuitive senses will tell you to do something else, which could manifest, and in many ways manifest something better than what you were holding on to that was bad. And one of the things, which is a common thing that happens with people, particularly with jobs, is that people do rituals for a job, and or particularly to increase their job or to get a better position in where they're working, and somehow happens they get fired. Well, that's a big failure, isn't it? Well, I was trying to get more money and get a better position, and somehow I got fired because something happened. And in every single one of these cases, the person has went out and got the better paying job, usually with a 50% increase in wages and better companies, because they were forced to go out and seek it instead of waiting in their company to get it. So what was initially extremely negative turned into something that was extremely positive. So again, it's how you perceive things. And if you're looking at everything from the straight line of that, I got to make this, I got to go and increase this at my job, they're going to give me a $2,000 raise, all these things that are generally impossible to happen and very humanly looked at as this straight line thing, it generally is not going to work. It's just not going to work, period. It's really, and occult scientists would call that really imbecilic thinking. So that's pretty much the second level in power, when you start manifesting what you desire more directly instead of just observing and making the right moves. And the next level generally is when you're able to get more results in a more of a straight line way. Once you're at a level of success, you're then able to manifest things a little more straight-lined, because your life is so successful that, once you've already got a really quality job, you can then try and become president of that corporation, or straight line become a president somewhere else, or whatever it is that you want to do in that particular thing. Make that $1 million sale, or whatever it is. Those are pretty much your base levels of empowerment. So now, once you get up to your third level, you're pretty much manifesting what you want in a much more controlled and straight line fashion. It's less dependent on other energies and the spirits manifesting as they need to get you to the proper position. You're able to control things more. And of course, the last level of empowerment, the fourth level basically, brings you up to the disconnection from the reality that you think you live in and that controls you, meaning time, space, and matter mean absolutely nothing. This is where you create physical immortality. This is where you create the ability to activate your light body and to go into a higher state of consciousness. This is when you can levitate, teleport, and do whatever all these extreme things that are comic booky like. But you have to break completely with the reality that you're in, which is dangerous, scary, and very hard to do in general. It's a very extreme way of thinking that basically almost no one can possibly do. They're involved with the world. They have kids and grandkids and all the other things that tie you to this realm. And the more connections you have to the physical environment, the more you want to keep all your toys, the more you want to be connected to other humans, and no matter whom or what they may be, the more you were enslaved by this reality. I mean, those that generally are immortals don't eat. You want to give up eating and draw your energy from the sun and do what these people have done? These are mind-screwing things to do and taking a lot of dedication, a lot of training, and a lot of understanding realities of the universe beyond the controlled and silly science that you believe in. It's entering a really quantum world of understanding. But you have to give up this entire world to do that, and nobody really wants to do that. They want everything that goes with the physicality of life. But as long as you stay in the physicality of life, you're controlled by the physical physics of that, so to speak. Once you accept the fact of physical, that matter is physical and dense, then everything stops. As soon as you understand that everything is non-physical, everything is built from, in a scientific terms, from the quantum physics of reality, from these subtle subatomic particles, and even smaller than subatomic. You're talking about creations that come from the basic energy of the universe and that are basic tachyon-based realities where things are going much faster than the speed of light, which, by the way, has been proven in the quantum world. And disconnecting from the physical, then anything is possible for those extremities. And of course, you don't want all the physical things when you reach there. You don't want the relationships, you don't want the food, you don't want anything else. Your realities change completely. But, that's a giant step. And in general, life becomes gnosis. It's all about knowledge. Knowledge is empowerment. It's all about understanding and becoming. And that's one of the most important things that is overlooked again in occultism. It's the fact is that everybody is too caught in developing things. It's all about trying with your conscious mind to manifest something because that's what the physical reality tells you to do. So if you want to be a bodybuilder, let's say, you have to physically go and pump the body. You have to use weights. Of course, there's learned techniques as well. There's ways of building muscles better than others. But in general, it's a physical process. If you want to get a high degree in a particular area, you got to learn all this information, which is a very physical process. And you're developing yourself in these high levels through this entire physical process. Now, occultism has nothing to do with physical processes. And this is where people get off the track entirely. It's about becoming and being. And as nebulous as that may seem, which it really isn't, because when you detach from the human consciousness, from the physical world, it's a process that is dramatic and not nebulous. You become something. And you don't think your way to become a powerful occult scientist. You become it. You become one with the energies, one with the stream. You don't think yourself into it. You don't practice yourself into it. You have to become it. If you want to use an occult energy or an occult energy tool to its highest degree, you don't make it. You don't use it like a hammer or a drill. You learn to combine with the energy there and become it. Like with sigils, you don't make them work. they work within you. You just get out of the way. And this is a very, very important concept that isn't told because, and it is a process of unlearning. It is a process very new to your consciousness. And something you really have to grasp if you expect to have these extreme empowerments. You need to become it. Every bit of your energy body, every bit of your consciousness needs to be geared into becoming and not working and understanding and reading and training through the conscious, boring mind. Well, that's all part of the process to a degree. You have to get to a point where you push all that aside and you become, you unite with. You are part of the process of the bigger empowerments where you place your energies in with the greater energies and you become. We're not talking about common world nonsense here where you have to learn to become a doctor, lawyer, fireman, Indian chief, whatever is done to train you because common society needs a bunch of these kind of worker bees, regardless of what level those are particularly on. You know, we're talking about very high paths here. We're talking about things and empowerments that are extreme, and you're not going to get that by some magic word or spell or some sort of symbol you put somewhere. Oh, we found this symbol in this tomb. All these things are contrived by those people doing it, and the people who have created these things have created them to the level that they can understand and the level of power they have. Now, to go past all that stuff, you need to become and be part of the entire process of extreme empowerment. And that is by getting out of your own way, turning that toxic, hateful, screwed up mind off, who's telling you all sorts of nasty things of how terrible you are and how you must stay on the same boring path and feeding you pretty much all sorts of negativity. A lot of that's been created in you from your experiences in life, positive or negative. And they're just constantly feeding you this information, which in most aspects doesn't have much value at all to you. But it's affecting what you're doing because you're programming it. I mean, the mind is constantly telling you that you're going to fail at this. Be careful. Fear kicks in. Well, you can't do this. You'll get hurt. You can't do this. You'll be ridiculed. You can't do this. This is what your mind is telling you. Based in all sorts of society conditionings and everything else that's going on. It is your enemy, and you need to put that aside. You need to become. You need to be. Thinking hasn't solved any of our problems as of this point. Most likely, it's caused a bunch of problems. You need to become and then do what you become and make it physical in your life. And as you progress and go through these different stages, you'll understand this a lot more than you do at this particular point. And how not only is it not nebulous, but it's extremely real. It's a way of learning and development where you bypass the worthless mind. Kind of, you could say, instead of downloading and inserting a program into the memory, going through all those steps, it's like going right to the memory and inserting the program directly. So those are the steps and developments of empowerment. And I don't think it's ever been offered or explained in that particular fashion before, so people understand these stages. And this is always a critical area because everyone is judging what's happening in the teachings by what they are manifesting in their life generally. People who study the psychic power books and they're not able to command people, and I get this every time. The people are getting these books, and within 30 days, they're trying to command people. Within 30 days, most people aren't able to achieve anything. I don't know any training program that only lasts 30 days. You certainly don't get a college degree in 30 days. You don't have any higher education in 30 days. You're talking anywhere from 4 to 10 years. And even that, most people then go into some sort of intern program. Even when you graduate medical school, you have to become an intern for many years. But when it comes to occultism, it don't work in 30 days, shit. It's amazing how fast occultism works in general for most people. In manifesting what they desire and getting them on this entire path. It's amazing because people don't really study for more than a month or two if they're not getting any pretty strong signs. But it's imbecilic to think that that's going to happen. It's a process. And you have to go through all these things, and your mind is blocking you. It's constantly telling you things aren't working. And that's the biggest problem. Your mind is getting in the way of doing all these higher evolving and empowerment processes. And if you can get that out of the way, then you start reaching to higher and higher levels. And some fairly dramatically. But to think that you're going to get a psychic command book and be able to, which half the book is based on programming yourself first, and then you're going to be able to dominate anybody you want to do your will, is childish. Doesn't work like that. As I said, you're going to go through those steps that I just gave you. You'll get to that level if you stay with it. But to think that you're going to do that in a month or 2 months or 3 months or 4 months, I mean, you've got to look to practicing these types of systems. And again, I want to make sure that I state strongly that you will be growing in empowerments if you notice it. But to expect to get these extreme results is going to take time. I mean, quite frankly, most people have no abilities in these areas at all. They have to be developed, and everything's been told you not to. I mean, going into occultism, everything else it tends to be a very negative thing for most people because it's considered anti-God. So if you tell anybody that you want to become an occultist or go into witchcraft, you're basically worshiping demons is what they think. And of course, for the basically religion, which are all controlled by demons, to keep you unempowered so that they can use and abuse you as they wish, they make sure that all these practices are considered very evil and rotten. And there's plenty of people to back them up, including all the muddy-duddy goofball scientists who think they know something. So all of these things are part and parcel of this. So, people who want to just direct themselves and do basic empowerments, you can approach it on that level, and it'll assist you in life as a general rule. Those who want to be more stronger manifestors and want to have more control over their life and want some of these more impressive manifestations, you're going to have to devote time to doing this. And it's not going to happen over a month or two or even a year. You've got to do these things for years, and then you'll see how your power starts to build and get stronger and stronger as you get involved in the entire practice. Nobody learns or is able to go to high extents of doing anything without spending time and practicing with it. And that goes for anything. You want to play golf? You think you're going to learn how to play golf in 2 lessons? You think you're going to play golf decently in a month? Well, generally you don't. And if you expect to be a good golfer, people golf for years and are never good golfers. So the point is that, to get up to a level of decent competency, it takes months. And that goes for anything you may try and do and learn. And past that becomes when you start becoming a master and understanding the entire processes and working them into your life. This, generally, in anything, takes years and quite a bit of dedication. I mean, people who are professional at anything, golf or anything else, are out there every day for hours and hours. Professional athletes, hours and hours. It's a job. So you need to look at it that way and not be childish to think that you're going to get fantastic results. But as I said, I want to make sure that everyone understands that unlike all these things, generally, that I just listed, you do start getting results right away. And you have to notice them, recognize them, and give them power that this has happened. This interesting thing has happened. This positive event has happened since I've done this. Connect it to your work, and this is how things build and how you get stronger and stronger. Don't look at the little things, dismiss them as that's normal life. Well, it ain't normal life, and that's not how things work. And people that do practices, if you stop doing it, you'll find out how your life goes back to bad again. But it's there, and we always try and streamline and make things empower for people the shortest possible way we can. That's why we offer these occult formulas, these oils, etc. things, and also why we offer some tools is because these are shortcuts that assist in empowering you much faster and greater. And but the tools work a lot better when you're trained. So when the higher you go up in levels and the more training you get and the more you've had, the tools will work better and better for you. So, everything works in a synergy. Everything's very holistic and all works together, and that's how life is. But it's very important that you understand these steps that I've just given